EV sales are slowing, used car dealers can't unload their electric vehicles, and the whole EV market is flattening. And rolling into 2024, we see a continuation of the loss of popularity of the electric vehicle marketplace. According to Cox Automotive, we saw record EV sales of 1.2 million units in 2023, but that doesn't tell the whole story, because now what we're finding as we round out the year, hit the next year, we're seeing these vehicles level off and the popularity is waning. But it doesn't just end there. Car dealers are starting to learn the hard way that trying to sell a used electric vehicle that maybe comes in on a trade, maybe a used BMW i3, maybe a Nissan Leaf, or maybe even a Tesla, are a very difficult vehicle to sell used. Nobody wants them. While there's a lot of incentives to buy brand new, you get a lot of incentives from the government. Buying a used EV off a second-hand lot doesn't often guarantee you the same level of motivation, and a lot of these vehicles are starting to be very difficult to sell. And they're also considered to be a high-risk proposition for a lot of dealers trying to flip a used EV. People are starting to recognize either you want it, you're going to buy it new, but nobody really wants them on the used car market, and they're becoming very difficult to sell. Primarily because from the moment that battery gets installed in the car, gets charged from the first time, it's likely on a ticking time bomb, to the point where 8 years, 100,000 miles, for example, in Hyundais and Kias, and then after that, you could literally be faced with huge repair bills. Not only that, Tesla has a slightly better warranty, but the fact remains is these batteries are on a fixed time frame and they won't last forever. So if you're walking into a car lot and there's a 4 or 5 year old Tesla, you know that you may only have a handful of years left in that vehicle, and people are struggling with that. As well, unless you're a die-hard enthusiast, you're probably not going to buy one of those used electric vehicles. Instead, you're probably going to try to grab what's left of the great internal combustion engine inventory, which are coincidentally holding a lot better on the used car market than we're finding anything in the EV segment. Coincidentally, at the end of the video, I actually share an example of a couple cases here in Canada where customers had slightly damaged or worn out batteries from Hyundai or Kia family, and they were faced with $50,000 or $60,000 bills, and one vehicle got written off and the other one decided to go to scrap. But be sure to check that out, the link's at the end. Hertz Car Rental Company actually quoted as saying that they were, by the end of 2024, they were initially going to have at least 25% of their vehicles in their fleet to be electric vehicle powered. Things have since then changed. Now what you're actually finding is Hertz Rental Company in the United States is trying to unload it. And now if you're looking at Hertz used car website, you're going to find a lot of electric vehicles up for sale. For example, BMW i3s, the old Chevy Bolt, and the Tesla Model Y and the Model 3, which are Tesla's entry-level vehicles. As a matter of fact, I personally had a rental from Hertz a couple of years ago when I actually featured a long-term review of a Tesla Model 3. Hertz Global Holdings has actually quoted that we're trying to sell at least 20,000 of our vehicles in the United States and unload them from our fleet and replace them with internal combustion vehicles instead, simply because the elevated cost of insurance, the elevated cost of repairs when they get dinged and damaged, and as well, the massive depreciation that they're faced with when they finally unload them after a year or two. And even stock prices are starting to be a reflection. They're seeing a 4% decrease in stock value, and even Tesla's stock is down about 3% in recent days. Hertz actually is quoted as saying they're on the hook for about $245 million in just depreciation values alone for 2023. And the jury's not out yet on whether the Canadian side of Hertz business is going to unload a lot of their vehicles as well. Now, we've seen other indications in the industry that electric vehicles, while they do see continual growth, there's some bumps and there's some humps and hurdles that they're to be faced with. A lot of people are resisting. The earlier adopters knew what they wanted. But now as we trudge on, a lot of people are struggling with the idea of getting onto the electric vehicle. Now we're starting to expose some of the costs of batteries, insurance, tires, brakes, other things that typically are higher wear points, quality control on some of these vehicles, the technology which is changing every couple of years, makes people a little skeptical about whether they want to buy an electric vehicle. And even car manufacturers like GM and Ford have even slightly scaled back. The development or building of a lot of their battery manufacturing facilities, or even the scaling down of some of their models, like Ford's Lightning, for example. Now, you either love it and you hate it, and I've spoke to a few people who own electric vehicles, specifically Tesla, and they personally love them. But they're also owners that have just purchased these vehicles within the last year, so time will actually tell what's going on. Some people I've spoke to said, yeah, they've had electric gremlins, they've had to get Tesla up to their driveway to actually come in and retweak and retune and set up some software changes. There's others that have had some other challenges with batteries and warranty work, and as well as some mechanical structural issues. And this is definitely going to shape some of the trajectory, because Hertz initially offered that it would have ordered 100,000 Teslas by the end of 2022, while they were going to pick up about 65,000 units from Polestar over roughly a 5-year time frame. So you think Hertz is the only vendor actually trying to walk away from electric vehicles? No. How about 6T, the German rental company, is also unloading or defleeting some of their electric vehicles. All Hertz is really adding to this is the remaining amount of their EV fleet. They're going to really focus more on the profitability and how much they can actually pull from one of these vehicles. There's still a little bit of experimentation going on here, but clearly they know enough, and there's enough intel to tell them that this is not necessarily the most profitable experiment. According to Cox Automotive data, we're also finding in 2023 that wholesale values of EVs are actually dropping down and inventory is slowly rising. Nobody buying them on the used car sector. And so iSeeCars.com analyst Carl Brower actually says, well, 20,000 cars isn't that large. It does in fact mean that Hertz is taking a serious beating on the value of their vehicles. In other words, as much as half of the value of that vehicle gone up in smoke in the first 1 or 2 years, and at that point it's time to unload. The cost versus loss balance, and it's not in a good spot. And as well, there's a lot more rhetoric. In the Canadian market, there's actually talk that by 2026, that they may be mandating absolute shutoff switches for all electric vehicles, and as well they might open up the microphone and have the ability to record voice data. Nobody wants to be recorded, everybody loves their privacy, and driving an electric vehicle just puts you in the digital age, and clearly you're more on the radar. And a lot of times people don't want to be watched by Big Brother. And while I say the Canadian Hertz is not yet confirmed or denied whether they're going to get on the bandwagon and start unloading and defleeting some of their EVs, the fact remains is living up in Canada, today we're seeing a day of minus 32 degrees Celsius. It means that plugging in your electric vehicle all day means you come out at the end of the day from work and you might be even. As a matter of fact, if you don't plug in your vehicle at all, your car battery can literally be toast within less than a day, just simply because the heat that it takes to generate and protect the batteries inside is a constant draw on the batteries themselves, meaning it's just not a practical solution for the northern climates, Canada, Eastern Europe, northern states. There's additional challenges here. This isn't Houston, this isn't California, and a lot of customers are just seeing that the practical side of owning an electric vehicle just doesn't exist. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. A quick note on what's going on in the electric vehicle market and how customers are starting to make an alternative decision. Be sure to check out that video. We talk about what happened with these customers in their battery failures and how much it ended up costing them in the end. Hope to see each and every one of you in the next time. We'll catch you real soon. Bye-bye.